Left and right.
Yep. Then you have the center is that.
Okay. So I'm Alejo Gonzalez, and my project was the Data Collection and Management Support and Arctic Energy Atlas project with Aaron Trosham. Where do you point it? Oh, okay. Well, my project was to take different layers given to me and make it into something that's readable by people. The layers on their own just kind of look like this. The one on the left is a random Arctic boundary. The one in the middle is just electric grids, and the one on the right is Alaska off-grid communities. So Google Earth Engines is just a JavaScript IDE, which visualizes geospatial data. The planning process for my project was every week there would be Monday check-ins where all the interns with Aaron would just talk about their projects. And then from there, we would plan little smaller meetings. We would make list meetings, and this is the first list that I made that we used for like most of the project. I made that with Kate Robb. And here's just my file hierarchy, which got more and more disorganized throughout my internship. It started off with each week I would do one draft. As you can see right there, draft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then eventually I kind of gave up on even naming things. So my learning process was that first I just wanted to learn JavaScript, and I did this by working with UI. So the first thing I did was make this code on the left, which is just adding panels to the map. And then after that, to learn more about Google Earth Engines, I messed with layers, and I would just like add random layers and see how they looked like on the right, how I just have boundaries of regions. I worked with multiple kinds of data. First was the analysis data, which is the initial data given to me, which is just electrical grids, power plants, communities, Arctic definitions, and more. And then the intermediate data is data that I had to mess with myself, which is just intersecting different grids and filtering out data based on that. And then last, I had the visualizations that I made, which is the Electric North 4plex, Electric North clickable, and the Arctic Energy Atlas app clickable. Here's analysis data. I just have a screenshot of the data given to me by Acep. And then intermediate data, I just put a screenshot of one of my pieces of code that intersected data and outputted it. Here in this bottom, you can see it exporting to feature view. And here's how the data looks like when I just add it to a map. And as you can see, it is impossible to read by person. It's just like absolute chaos. So what I had to do was make it so that it actually was interpretable by people. Here's an early version of the Arctic Energy Atlas app, which is based around Kate Robb's policy paper. It focuses more on regions versus and what renewable energy they have. Here's a draft of the Electric North app that I made, and it just focuses more on the Arctic boundaries versus the other one, which focuses more on highlighting regions. Here's the 4plex version of this app, which just shows all of the regions at once versus one at a time, like in the other one. And that's all. Any questions? Yeah. Are you talking about where I found the data like you have here in the Acep? Initially, I didn't have any of the data, so I just looked at random Google Earth Engines data, which they have a lot of to work with, and I would just add random layers on that I didn't even know what they did because I didn't really understand anything at the time. But then at one point, I was given actual assets, and Aaron told me that we wanted information like off-grid communities, for example. So I would just look at the asset that had the name off-grid communities and work with that. And yeah, I was just mostly talking with people on the project and seeing what data they wanted on maps. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. What are the strengths of Google Earth Engines and what are the weaknesses of Google Earth Engines? I would say the strength is that you can quickly visualize data at the click of a button. And I would say that the weakness is that there's a big learning curve with JavaScript and it's very code heavy. And a lot of people who are working with geospatial data may not be computer scientists, so won't have that background. Any more questions? Yes? What was my process for deciding how humans want to look at data? I didn't really have much of a process, honestly. I would ask other people on the project, but mostly I would just kind of organize it in a way that I thought I would like to look at it. And I really tried to keep in mind how people who didn't like have all of the background might want to look at it. Any more questions? Yeah. A lot of it was about renewable energy across different Arctic boundaries. So I would just say it fits in because it can give us a lot of insight as to future projects that Acep should do. Any more questions? Yeah. I don't believe the Acep data is. I'm not sure. Oh, is this? Am I going to be bugging my mentor to make this publicly available? Now I am, yes. Yes, I like that. Any more questions? Hmm. This project really influences what I want to do with my degree because this is my first job experience. So it really showed me how much I like visualizing data and working with JavaScript, and I wouldn't have figured that out without this project. Any more questions? Seems we're good.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Leo.